And good morning and welcome to another live stream on the Blind Advocate channel. Um, Before we start, I just want to let everyone know that I need your help. Um, I need people to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Um, the financial burden of me doing these streams is sort of getting a bit high, and there's like just everyone else, it's getting a bit difficult. With YouTube, if you're getting a certain amount of subscribers and a certain amount of watch hours, you get monetized. Um, and then people pay to advertise on your channel, and you get part of that advertising fee from YouTube. So if everyone could subscribe to my channel, um, and hit the like button, leave a comment and share whatever you want. I don't mind. It's up to you. It'd be really great. Um, so today I wanted to talk about a few different things. I've been doing, watching some stuff online um, from Bill Shorten talking about the stage one of the reforms, NDIS reforms. And I've been watching and listening to and reading some stuff from other people who are opposing these reforms. Now, when I was listening to Bill Shorten the other day, he said there was about 160,000 independent support workers in Australia at the moment, which is quite a lot. And he was referring to having a national registry. Now, I know there's quite a few well-known people who are opposing this. Um, I've done a bit of investigation on it, and I think it's something that needs to happen. It really does. It's there for the protection of the people with disabilities and the support workers themselves. It's absolutely essential that all support workers, including independent support workers, um, have minimum requirements that they need to meet through the NDIS, which is to have a first aid and CPR certificate, the correct insurances, police and working with children's check, um, adhering to the NDIS codes of conduct, and other things as well as the government's trying to put together some ideas. I'm going to show you a clip shortly. I've seen this on YouTube from a current affair. It's regarding a service provider. I'll just display that, please, Chris. Um, it's absolutely disturbing what happened to this young man. Um, I'll just get you to watch it. We won't watch the whole clip, but we'll play enough if we get an idea. So there's feedback.
It's September 2021 in a usually quiet Hunter Valley cul-de-sac. It's September 2021 in a usually quiet Hunter Valley cul-de-sac. This man, who we'll call Jake, lives with schizophrenia and an intellectual disability. For almost a year, he's lived in a group home run by Evolution Support Services, or ESS. Jake's carers should be trained to safely diffuse a situation like this. A support worker named Mark Hutton approaches Jake. Former ESS support worker Daniela Tangulu was in the house that day. And what was going through your head when that was happening?
Just in shock, to be honest. I've been working in Evolution for a couple of years. I've never seen that level of aggression.
Violence, abuse and neglect are endemic in the disability support system. Unfortunately, what we're seeing here are people who have managed to get into the system who are maybe not there to care.
Daniela Tangulu received a banning notice from the NDIS watchdog for failing to intervene. He fought the order and still works as a carer. After the incident, ESS moved the worker, Mark Hutton, to another home.
I'm very disappointed of how this whole thing was dealt with. Like, Mark should obviously be disciplined and let go from the job.
Evolution Support Services is among a group of companies providing security and other services that expanded into disability support 9 years ago.
So most of their staff were security guards, which enabled Evolution to branch into the disability sector in a unique way.
ESS employs a number of disability support staff who care for people with the most complex needs, people with intellectual disabilities, some with a history of violence.
It shocks me that an organisation that's in the security business is now being asked to provide therapeutic supports to people with disabilities.
Clinical psychologist Keith McVilly is a leading disability expert. He's been an advisor to the NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission.
That's horrific. No one should be treated like that in their own home. We wouldn't accept it in any other situation. Why should we accept it for people with intellectual disability?
ESS did its own investigation. It found Mark Hutton acted in self-defence and notes Hutton's claim that no excessive force had been used.
I can't see any relationship between what's captured on film and what's in the report.
The ESS report claims that Jake assaulted Mark Hutton. 730 has confirmed the NDIS watchdog was sent a copy of this report.
I just feel for Jake, to be honest. I feel like he's been let down by the company.
Before becoming a disability support worker, Mark Hutton worked in recruitment and was a mixed martial arts champion. He was hired by ESS despite a previous conviction of assault occasioning bodily harm.
He lacks empathy or compassion. He is just angry.
13 months after Jake's arm was broken, Mark Hutton was involved in another incident after an ESS client tried to attack him. Mark Hutton allegedly wrestled the man to the floor and kneed him in the head. He was sacked and charged, but later acquitted of assault as the court couldn't be satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt of his guilt. Mark Hutton did not respond to 7:30's interview request or
That's 36 hours she works in a 24-hour period. How does that work? 3 people, one-on-one supports? I thought one-on-one support was for one person. That needs to be looked into. People blowing through their funding within months. That needs to be looked into. Now, we're talking about tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars of funding just going. I know there's independent support workers who provide one supports when they have a client who wants to go away for a weekend to a concert or something. They get a lump sum. They pay for everything out of that lump sum, and whatever's left over is what they get to keep for wages. That's what I was told. I don't think it's totally true, but maybe it is. I don't know. There needs to be transparency and accountability. Now, the public have no right to know what's in our files. The taxpayers have no right to know what's in our personal files. That's our personal private business. But the taxpayers have the absolute right to know where their tax money is going, how it's being used, how the outcomes are being achieved, and how it can be improved. Now, we hold our government accountable. We want to know where our taxes go. I don't have a problem with it. I do have a problem with, keeping our personal files personal and confidential. Nobody has the right to know. But the taxpayers have a right to know where their money's going and how it's being spent, the outcomes, the goals. I know a lot of these self-managers that they want their funding and they want to put up a brick wall and not be held accountable or to be transparent on what they spend their money on because that's their choice. They can use their funding for their disabilities, for what's reasonable and necessary for their disabilities. It doesn't give them the right to spend it on whatever they want, whenever they want. We have to be responsible. The participants of the NDIS, we have to be responsible. Now, I'm totally blind. I have no light perception whatsoever. There's a GPS device out that's over $2,300. But I'm not using it because I'm trying to use my iPhone with GPS apps on it, which are free. And so far it's working. It's slower than it would be if I had the GPS device, but over $2,300 for a GPS device when there's apps out there for free. That's being responsible. Maybe those GPS apps don't work for everyone and they need the other device. That's fine. If it doesn't work, the apps don't work for them, that's fine. I understand. Not everybody who is blind has the same problems. We all have our own strengths and weaknesses. And I don't compare myself to anyone else because I don't want me being compared to anyone else either. So we need to be responsible. But I had a look at the Self-Managers Hub a few months ago. I haven't been on there for a few months. And they were advertising for self-managed to join their hub for X amount per year. And we'll teach you how to be creative and innovative while for using your funding. That doesn't sound too good to me. I don't know anybody else. How to be creative and innovative? You should be using your funding for what you need for your disabilities, not to be creative, to get more out of it, to get things that you probably don't really, or you shouldn't be really getting. So we have to be accountable and transparent as participants. So, and while I was watching that Senator Jordan Steele, John, he was talking about this point system and a few other things, and I was so confused because it was in total opposition to what Bill Shorten was saying. So where do we go to get the facts that from people who don't have a vested interest either way, who just want to be there to tell the truth? Who do we turn to? I don't trust the government. Only the best liars become politicians, in my opinion. And I don't trust people who only tell half truths either. So I don't know. What do we do? You know, support workers need ongoing training. And I'll get Chris to show a clip here in a sec. And this is the exact reason why support workers need more support and training and education on duty of care and restrictive practices and all the other things. Can you just play that one a bit, that little bit, please?
When the other video glitched out, it lost a few minutes of audio.
Okay. All right. Yep. So this, have a listen to this one. I think people are aware of it, but just have a listen to it.
He played his first drive.
Commercial.
Alex should be here to celebrate his 17th birthday, but he's not. His parents trusted the NDIS to look after him for the night, but their boy never came home. And 6 years on, no investigation, no justice.
Smile, smile.
Alex was absolutely one of a kind. Even though that his diagnosis was autism and intellectual disability, he was actually very, very clever.
Oh, no piggyback, no.
He's always on my mind, and he's missing out on all the things that he should be doing.
Since the sudden death of her son Alex 6 years ago, Sharon Braverman's been sleepwalking through her shattered life.
I'm just so angry all the time. I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do. I just want justice.
Justice for Alex, because Sharon's son died while in the care of major NDIS provider Civic Disability Services, led by CEO and celebrated mountaineering lover Annie Doyle.
She sat in the witness box in the Disability Royal Commission and said that she understands the family's grief because she is a mother. That is very insulting and ridiculous.
Sharon and husband Dale trusted Civic to look after their son for a night at this respite home in Oatley, south of Sydney, 6 years ago. The cost of one-on-one care for Alex for one night, $1,500, paid by the NDIS to Civic.
I couldn't believe it. The first thing I said to Sharon was, what is he going in a limo or something?
It was the last time they saw their boy alive. Civic was made aware of Alex's habit for absconding. Still, he managed to climb through a window and over a low fence. Half an hour later, the non-verbal 11-year-old was found dead on railway tracks, struck down by a train.
I just can't believe that a disability provider would leave windows unlocked and open.
The New South Wales coroner found the tragedy was entirely preventable. He blasted Civic Disability Services and boss Annie Doyle for for failing to provide adequate care for Alex. The coroner recommended Civic no longer care for children under 16 years of age. That slap on the wrist hasn't appeared to have dented Civic's bank balance. Last year, it reported a total revenue well in excess of $65 million, placing Civic near the summit of Australia's NDIS providers, on the shoulders of its Mount Everest scaling CEO.
She's an absolute disgrace. I cannot believe that she is still the CEO. Someone who is responsible for creating the climate within an organisation that results in the entirely preventable and negligent death of a child needs to resign.
Now, the NDIS Commission has told Sharon it won't investigate or reprimand Civic Disability Services.
We are deeply sorry for your loss and I apologise for the delay in responding.
The NDIS Commission broke the news to the grieving mum in an email on the 6th anniversary of her son's death.
How do you feel when you read that?
If anyone from the NDIS or who is complicit in sending me this disgusting reply, you're a bloody disgrace and you make me sick. You make me sick.
The NDIS told Sharon that Civic Disability Services is demonstrating its compliance obligations as a registered provider.
It's almost like they're killing me as well. It's not enough that Alex was killed, now I'm being killed by this just complete inaction and apathy by the government.
Sharon and Dale are appealing to NDIS Minister Bill Shorten to reconsider taking action against the provider.
They haven't paid any fines, they haven't faced any consequences, no one in the board's left. They're just continuing. It just sickens me to the core. I don't.
So you can see there, this young boy, 11 years old, one-on-one support snuck out a window. Now, I've been talking to different people about this scenario, from different support workers. And we talked about duty of care and restrictive practices. Now, I don't know what happened on that day or that night. Maybe they could have locked the window. They couldn't lock him in his room because that'd be restrictive practice and he just can't do it. You know, holding someone captive like that's against the law anyway. But where was that support worker while he snuck out? Was he off going to the toilet, making himself a cup of coffee, outside having a cigarette? Where was that support worker? We don't know. Which leads me back to the contradiction of duty of care and restrictive practice that a lot of people struggle with. I know I do. The support workers I talked to, when I said that maybe they should have just locked the window while they went to the toilet, or they should have another staff member to watch him while they went to the toilet. I don't know where that support worker was. And then we started talking about restrictive practice. Yeah, locking the window may have been viewed as restrictive practice. So if support workers who receive ongoing training through their job, who believe that duty of care and restrictive practice sometimes contradicts itself. So how does that go for an independent support worker who's had no training at all? What do they know about duty of care? What do they know about restrictive practice? You know, the NDIS, it rots from the head down. It's like a fish, it rots from the head down. And I said this from the very start from the NDIS. The Labor Party rushed it out. They didn't do the trial long enough and they didn't cast the net wide enough. because people with disabilities relied on family to provide for them. And then the NDIS comes along and said, oh no, we're going to provide funding for you to get out in the community and reach life goals and achieve different targets, which is great. But it's left a lot of loopholes, a lot of gaps in the system. And I don't care if it's Labor Party or the Liberal Party, they're still playing catch up with the NDIS. Like I said previously, there's people on the NDIS that I know that shouldn't be on there. I know NDIS participants who are rorting the system. I know support workers who are rorting the system. So what's the government doing to stop this? All the rorting going on, people using loopholes. I don't know what they're doing. And when you've got things like the self-managers hub, who are going to, once you pay, if you're self-managed and you pay their fee to join, they'll teach you how to be creative and be innovative on using your funding, getting the most out of your funding. That's not what the funding's for. I don't know. Where do you go to get the truth? Where do you go to fix it up? Now, I spoke to a bloke recently who used to work for senior management on the NDIS, and he left the organisation in disgust. And he made submissions to the Senate inquiry, and he went and spoke at a Senate inquiry, and he provided all this information which the Senate inquiry and the government just ignored. Now, I've read through some of his documents, and although I was shocked, I wasn't surprised. Cronyism, rampant cronyism in the NDIS senior management. People taking credit for other people's work. When something goes wrong, senior management blames somebody else, or senior management employs somebody that's got no qualifications or experience for that job. They employ him for $500,000 a year, decide they're not doing a very good job, but they're still on a contract, so they move them to one side and bring somebody else in $500,000 a year. They put Chinese CCTVs up in the NDIA headquarters, and they had to take them back down again because of spying. They were renting out 4 floors in that large building in Melbourne, CBD. But the NDI decided that they should have their own building for $350 million. So I'll just cast your memory back to last year, where 11,000 records were sold by an NDIA staff member to a couple of service providers. Now they're being charged, and there won't be any information on that because they've got to go through the legal process. Then it comes out that senior management got hospitality kickbacks from Salesforce, which provides software for the NDIA, at $129 million a year. Now, this is the same company that that the UK Postal Service was using, because I was privatising it, and they used Salesforce, and people lost their homes, people went to jail, people had to pay back tens of thousands of pounds, not dollars, pounds. And there's also a couple of suicides because there was a glitch in the Salesforce software, but we're still using it. And where does Salesforce store their data? Their backup data. Where's it stored? I know it's not in Australia. And when it came out that the Salesforce gave hospitality kickbacks to some members of the senior management of the NDIA, that was it Susan Wishart came out and said it was appalling, they're going to investigate it. We've heard nothing. That was December last year. We've heard nothing. What's happened? Do they still have their jobs? Because they took a bribe? In my opinion, you get a kickback, that's a bribe. So what's happened there? We've heard nothing since December last year. For God's sake. You know, they talk about the ongoing cost of the NDIS, when the government's no better than people who are rorting the bloody system. So how do the people who are doing the right thing not getting accurate information from senior members, of the IAC and senators only telling half the, what do we do? Where do we turn to? Who do we turn to get the truth? All those honest people out there on the NDIS and all the fantastic support workers who work really hard and are dedicated to their jobs. What happens to them? What happens to us? Who do we turn to? Now, that Senator Jordan Steele, John, I was really disappointed with the stuff he was saying because he was only telling half the truths. And saying having a national register removes his freedom of choice for who he wants as a support worker. It doesn't remove your freedom of choice. You can choose whoever you want so long as they're registered. And I know there's quite a prominent person who said he wants to train these support workers on the job. Independent support workers, he wants to train them on the job. Now, if this person has dysphagia, how's he going to teach them what to do if he has an attack? I don't know. I put out requests for interviews from Bill Shorten. He just refers me to the NDIA, which is frustrating. I'm going to reach out to Senator Jordan Steele, John, to see if he'll come on and have a discussion with me. We'll see how it goes, but people will only tell half truths. I don't know. It's just bad. It's the whole thing's just reeks of mismanagement and half truths and deliberate misleading statements and comments. And for the poor average person on the NDIS who's struggling to get the basic services that they require, they're the ones who are suffering, not these high profile people. It's the average person on the NDIS and the support workers who suffer. I don't know. Is there any comments, Chris? No. Well, I might end it there for today. I'm sorry. I get uptight and a bit anxious, and I stumble over my words, and I'm not as articulate as I should be, but I just get so frustrated, and I reach out to people to get information, and you can ask the same question to 3 different people and get 3 different answers. But I'll be keeping an eye on these reforms. I think we need to be more transparent and more accountable to what we're using our funding for. It's not just an endless bucket of money. I mean, that's just ridiculous for people to think that and to say that. And I've heard that from some high profile people. That's their funding. That's their money. It's not your money. It's the taxpayers' money. And it's there for you to use, for you to get back into the community and to get back into the workforce, or to reach your life goals, or to achieve different tasks that you want to get done in your life. That's what it's for. It's not your funding. It's the taxpayers' money that we're getting to help us get it back on our feet. And for these high profile people to say that and think that, I think is appalling. Maybe they shouldn't be employed or put in positions of authority if that's their attitude. I think it's terrible. But anyway, I'll end it there. Thanks for joining in. If you want to make any comments on the YouTube channel, please do, or send me an email at blindadvocate007@gmail.com, and I will respond to you. I always respond to people who email. And since I've had this channel, I think this will be my 72nd video I put out, and I've helped a few people out, you know, doing some research for them and asking questions and pointing them in the right direction. So I try and put myself in other people's positions. I don't focus on my disabilities. When people ask for help, I focus on them. And that's what an advocate does. That's what a representative does. So we'll just end it there, please, Chris. Thanks everyone for listening.